India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi was among the world leaders in Dubai for the latest edition of COP28.
India is one of the countries that is worst affected by the impact of global warming, and it has ambitions to massively increase its use of renewable energy over the coming years.
But as Rebecca Bundhun reports from Mumbai, the nation is facing a considerable challenge in its financing of its green transition.
It was just over a year ago that Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi declared Madeira India's first solar-powered village. For centuries, it was known for its sun temple. But now, this village in India's western state of Gujarat is famous for harnessing the sun's energy for power. More than 1,300 solar panels not only provide energy for the locals, but also enable them to sell energy back to the grid. So going green has become economically lucrative for Madeira.
जरूरत की बिजली उपयोग करो और अतिरिक्त बिजली सरकार को बेच दो और इससे बिजली के बिल से भी छुटकारा मिलेगा। इतना ही नहीं, अब हम बिजली बेच करके कमाई करेंगे।
And the Madeira model is something the Modi government would like to see across India.
साथियों, अब तक ये होता था कि सरकार बिजली पैदा करती थी और जनता खरीदती थी, लेकिन मैं उस रास्ते पर चलने के लिए प्रतिबद्ध हूं। देश को भी इसके साथ जोड़ने के लिए प्रयास कर रहा हूं। मुझे आगे का रास्ता नजर आ रहा है और इसलिए ही केंद्र सरकार ये लगातार प्रयास कर रही है कि अब लोग अपने घरों में सोलर पैनल लगाएंगे।
The central and local state governments work together to help Madeira go solar.
It's a success story in the Modi government's target to produce 500 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity by 2030. It's an ambitious goal that will require the involvement of the private sector.
Startup Orjan Cleantech aims to make it easier for businesses and individuals to switch to green energy solutions. It offers solar products and financing options to help customers fund these green projects. These have become popular not just among firms, driven to do this to boost their sustainable practices and bring down their costs in the long term. Households have also responded well to some government incentives to go solar.
We have to adopt renewable energy. Government doing a lot in terms of policies, but one of the thing is renewable energy is capital intensive.
Orjan has partnered with banks, other financial corporations and private investors to provide loans. And so far it says it has leveraged some $120 million in 5 years to facilitate these projects. Green energy projects in India have so far largely been funded by non-banking financial institutions, bond markets and banks. India currently has about 180 gigawatts of green energy capacity, and analysts at global analytics firm CRISIL say hitting that 500 gigawatt target will require more than $300 billion of investment.
Given this scale of requirement, clearly the traditional and conventional channels of financing are likely to be inadequate, and India will need to evaluate alternate pools of capital as well as look at innovation from financing structure standpoint to ensure that we have adequate financing as per needed.
Prime Minister Mr. Modi has long been calling on developed nations to provide finance to help developing countries to transition to green energy. He says that they should contribute at least 1% of their GDP to climate finance. In 2009, at COP15, developed countries pledged to mobilise $100 billion a year by 2020 to support climate action in less wealthy countries. This hasn't been achieved. In fact, the OECD and Oxfam estimate that in 2020, about $83.3 billion had gone from developed to developing nations, while the UN says developing countries will need nearly $6 trillion to implement their climate action plans by 2030.
What will be left for developing countries who are also dealing with economic challenges as well as poverty and other measures? They need some extra carbon space to deal with them, apart from the climate change that is happening. So obviously the burden might shift to the developing countries, including India. to mitigate a lot more. But then are we getting, commensurate amount of finance from the developed countries to support those climate action, which is also missing?
India is expected to use this year's climate summit to call for developed nations to play a bigger role financially in helping India and other developing countries to go green. But it remains to be seen how successful it will be in securing the funds it needs. Rebecca Bundhun, CNA, Mumbai.